Hello, this is Dr. Hawk. Welcome to this demo of a learning analytics platform I have designed. This is an MVP product, meaning it's a minimum viable product, so it's not yet available for. But I built this platform because I wanted educators to have a unified view of what was going on in the courses that they teach. As an educator myself, I build courses and I always wonder how my students are doing. And I've got dashboards that show how my students are averaging on each assignment, each learning outcome. Are they meeting expectations or exceeding expectations? And if you don't have that, it's very difficult to determine how successful your course is, especially with content and content delivery. So I'm using this course statistical methods as an example. Notice I've got three courses in the drop down, but I'll use statistics. But it shows here that I have 6 students. The class average across all assessment is 78%. I have one student that is at risk and two students that I need to watch because they could end up failing the course. And the engagement rate is 78%. This means that this is the percentage of that students overall are completing each of the module. And engagement is very, very important because if you don't know, if students aren't engaged, it is likely they won't be able to complete their assignments. So here's a performance trend, and you can see probability theory is at 78% across all students. Hypothesis testing is 77%, and then we have regression analysis at 79%. This card shows that this is an online course, and this is the instructor. Now, I should have said this earlier. This is all sample data was generated for this project, okay? So none of this data is real. It's all sample data. We have a risk distribution chart here, and it shows you have 3 students who are doing fairly well, 2 students who are on the watch list, and definitely one student who is at risk of failing this class. These are the learning outcomes here, which is very, very important. Each course has learning outcomes. And you can see here that we have 3 learning outcomes to be able to apply ability, probability theory, uh, conduct hypothesis tests, and build regression models. Now, as I scroll down, we have a description here over to the right that describes it a little bit more in detail, the module engagement. And you can see here that the engagement rate for regression analysis is very low. Probability theory is good, hypothesis testing is good, but regression analysis is very low. And maybe, students are getting deeper into the course, they begin to struggle with some of the concepts and they start to fall behind. So we're going to take a look at the first at-risk student, who is Ethan Anderson. And you can see Ethan's average score is 58%, but he's also not very engaged. He's only engaged 33% of the time. So he's not engaged in the course. You can see here he scored a 62 on probability theory, 58 on regression analysis, and 55 on regression analysis, and 58 on hypothesis testing. So these are the personalized recommendation to the instructor or the advisor. Immediate intervention is needed. Schedule a one-on-one meeting to discuss academic challenges and creative support. Address performance decline and try to determine if there is something maybe in the module for each of the learning outcomes, especially the ones that are showing low engagement, to determine whether or not there is something that you could improve. You can improve that section of the course to help students to be more engaged. Sometimes students are struggling with a topic. They get to a point and they realize there's no turning back and they're just going to move on. So this is the student dashboard. And by the way, this would be an internal dashboard only to this instructor or the program director, the academic program director of the section, because this is all FERPA information, so this would not be a public view. And again, I remind you that none of this is real data. This is all made up stuff. So let's now go to the look at the end of course evaluations. And one of the things I added here is an instructor summary, the key insights from 6 student evaluation. You had an excellent response rate of 100%. Students are engaged with providing feedback, not necessarily the course. You have a net promoter score of 0, which indicates room for improvement in student satisfaction. NPS is higher when students are satisfied with the course and they're willing to recommend it to other students. And here it says 67% of the feedback is positive. Students appreciate your teaching approach. So as I scroll down here, you can see the distribution. There are 4 responses that were positive and 2 that were negative. And then you can see the rating distribution here. This is the sentiment distribution. This is the rating distribution where you have 5 responses that were 5, 2 responses that were 2, and 3. But this is just a breakdown of the distribution of how students answered, how many students gave you a 5 versus how many gave you a 2, and how many gave you a 1. We don't have any 1s here. The common themes you notice here is how comprehensive was the course. You have 1 student said it was very comprehensive, very helpful, exceptional, and would recommend. You have 1 student who said it was confusing and hard. So when you look at this in the context of the content itself, especially confusing and hard, this is a direct result of either the quizzes or the content. So that's an area that an instructor would definitely pay attention to go back and revisit that part of the content to ensure that it is meeting students' need. So this is, again, Dr. Hawk. I just wanted to show you this demo of this proof of concept and just to recommend to instructors that these are the type of metrics and tracking that you could integrate into your learning so that you have a good idea of what's going on not only with your course but really the course outcomes based on students' progress. Hope you enjoy this demo.